cover them again because they were very good questions. Anyway, now we want to talk about the record keeping. And the record keeping can be a drag, but it is also the part where you can well represent your homeschool. You can make documentation that impresses people. I just want you to know. So, yes, it requires a little onion bleeding. It does. And if you need someone to look over your documentation, I'm a good person. And if you join HSLDA, I'm just a phone call away. We have three high school consultants. We're in the process of hiring our fourth. We're available Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 East Coast time, as well as by email. And we love empowering you to be able to do what you do well. So I'm going to start off now with practical tips for transcripts. And I want to just give you some perspectives on homeschooling. If a transcript is less complicated than your 1040 form. So if you can do a 1040 form, you're in the right class, okay? It is less painful than a root canal or a colonoscopy. So some of us have had to do that. That's right. And it is less scary than jumping off bungee jumping. So if you've done that or gone down one of those hills at full speed on one of those diamond courses, this is less scary than that, okay? So anyway, I want to give you some reasons for homeschooling for records. Obviously, you know because of the days of attendance you need to keep track of. And obviously, if you're doing option 1, you have test scores that you need to keep track of for 3rd, 5th, 7th, 9th, and 11th grade. Then also, you might also be under one of the private schools here in Colorado. I don't know if any of you are under the Czech private school, so they might have some documentation required of you. They might want you to keep logs of your various electives or something like that. So whatever they ask of you, record keeping is your friend, and teaching your kids a method to do it for you so it's not on your shoulders to do it is a great way. So I love having logs, and I had separate logs. In other words, we didn't combine bookkeeping with piano with volunteer service, okay? They were all in different logs so that I didn't have to unseparate them later on. And it was a good discipline for my kids to get into, is to learn to log their time. And not that your kids would do this, but procrastination time is not part of logging. So if you're starting to notice that there's 5 hours to do something, and it was only to answer the comprehension questions, you might want to suspect procrastination. Then it could also be for jobs in colleges and scholarships. They are very interested in the records you're going to turn in. Sometimes for licensing and certification, if you're going to go the apprenticeship route, that would be helpful too. Now, here are the records to keep during high school. Now, if I knew exactly what your kid was going to do, I could eliminate some of these for you, but I don't know what your kid's going to do. And I have known kids that in their 11th grade year pull out one saying, "Oh, Mom, I'm going here." And he says, "What? Whoa, we weren't doing any of that." So if you'll just start at the beginning and keep records every year, it won't be so hard at the end. And here it is. Give me 2 weeks at the end of any year, and we can get all the record keeping brought up to speed in those 2-week period. And then you're done. You don't have to do it during the year. You just need to do it at the end of the year. Give me a month afterwards if you're going to take some vacation time. Obviously, you want to keep credits and grades, and you're going to give them in a transcript form, test scores. Report cards, you usually don't give report cards unless, for instance, you're under the Social Security Administration and you need to give a report card. Then that would be a reason for you to put together a report card, and we have a blank form that you could use if you want to put that together. But if you get grades from someone else, from an outside teacher or whatever, keep those as part of your permanent records, because you'll just want to hold on to them that you have them. Then also anything that you send to the school or the school sends back to you. I always had a notebook. It's a green notebook, and it sits on this part of the shelf, and everything that had to do with anything to do with the county. I also made copies of anything I sent them, because we had to file every year, and anything. And then I always sent everything certified mail, a return receipt, and so I always kept the receipts, because the receipt said someone signed it, you got it. So therefore, okay. And certainly medical. Immunizations, the ones you actually do give your kid, you should keep track of. And also any diagnosis, if there's any learning challenges, then that's important, especially if later on you're going to be going for some accommodations on college entrance tests or something like that. And I say important phone numbers because you all have a smartphone, and it's all smarter than my phone. I've got the dumbest smartphone on the planet. But the point is that it is just a drop in the water away from not being very smart, okay? So I just want to make sure that you have some backup plan, because when it comes time to come up with a recommendation letter, you cannot remember her name because it fell in the water and it's gone. So anyway, just have a backup plan for all of that, records during high school. Permanent records, once you actually graduate high school, what can you throw away? A great deal. Oh, on this chart, there's one other thing that is not required for your state law at all. It's never required for your state law. But because we're HSLDA and we have the privilege of being able to defend people in court and get challenged for various reasons, the lawyers always say it is a good rule of thumb to keep a sample of your children's work during the year. You don't have to keep everything, just a sample during the year, and keep it a year in arrears so that you have a full year and now you're starting on the second year. I know some people will keep it all for high school and then have a bonfire when it's all done. That's right. But the point is that's a good rule, because by keeping samples of their work, it shows that education is happening. And usually the question is education happening? And samples of works is gold mine. Logs are gold mine to lawyers. It's amazing what they get excited over. So, so that's the other thing you should know about for record keeping. What you'll keep for the long term is a transcript. You can go to your high school, pay $5 to $10, and get a copy of your transcript today. So if your kids ever need a transcript, charge them $5 to $10. Make some money. No. Anyway, the point is you're going to keep that transcript for a long time. There'll come a point when you'll want to, in its final form, as a PDF, give them to them, so if they ever need to have it, they can have it, because you may not be around as long as they're going to live. At least I'm not planning on being around that long. And anyway, so that's something that they should always have a record of. But for right now, I still hold on to my kids' transcripts. But I'm in the process now that they're in their 30s of figuring out how I'm going to transfer it over to them so that I never have to see that thing. My daughter applied to a graduate school in Switzerland, and they wanted a copy of her high school transcript. And I thought, you graduate college, why would you need a high school transcript? But it was required. She got in because we had it. So it's like, really? I wouldn't have thought that. Standardized test scores, because they are the law, I would just keep them in that green folder so that you always have them. Anything that's on outside, if you pulled your kid from a school, public or private, get a copy or ask them to send a transcript to you that shows the courses they took and the grades they have, and then just tuck that away in your own private records, because that's a gold mine for you to build your records off of. So do that. And then, of course, medical records. Those are important to have because they show up at funny times when you need to have them. Okay. One of the big things that your kids can do is extracurricular. And I was talking to a couple up here, and this is your brag sheet. If what happens on the transcript is what you have to do, what happens on the extracurricular is what your kid wants to do. And we think our sons and daughters are really interested in certain things. So that's the point of extracurricular. And it is not on the transcript. Public and private school do not have someone chasing them around to build a resume for their kids. They just put together a transcript that's just got grades and credits and courses on it. You get to build the resume. And you can take as much room as you need for this resume, because you don't have to put it into one page yet. Now, if you turn to the second page in your handout, I've given you an example of a resume. Yes, won't look like yours. This is John Jarrett, and he did a lot of audiovisual stuff like that. But here, the point is that I kept one of these for 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. It was just easier for me to keep them in 4 forms than one. If you're more organized, you can keep it all in one. That's great. Now, was their 11th and 12th grade far more impressive? Of course it was. But at least we knew. And when you get 3 or 4 years into homeschooling, you will forget things. Trust me, you really will forget. And when you're filling in an application, you can fill in an application poorly in a night, or you can spend a little bit more time and fill it in well. So we'll be talking about that in the next hour that I speak with you. So anyway, I just want to give you an idea of what something like that could look at. What goes on it? We have on our website, and you have in your resource a whole stuff about extracurricular that you can look at, articles, newsletters, written. So there's more information than you probably want to know about extracurricular. But awards and honors. There are honors organizations that accept homeschooling students. So if that's something that your son or daughter is interested, please consider that. But if you get an award from an outside organization, then accept that too. If you're part of a debate team, Please count going to the tournaments as extracurricular. Don't count them as part of the class, okay? All the work to get ready for that could be the class, and then the actual competition, that can be your, because to hide an award in a class seems like such a waste. So anyway, there's where your awards and honors are. Volunteer service. I had logs that I had my kids keep track of their volunteer service at church, their volunteer service. My son was very busy in Civil Air Patrol. My daughter, because of her interest in the music and arts, did an awful lot of music arranging and stuff, so I had her keep logs of those ones. And if your kids have more than 150 hours in a calendar year, you should look up the President's Volunteer Service Award, because that's something that a bronze award is 150 or more, a silver is 200 or more, and a gold is 250 or more in a year. So that's a nice way, and they will accept you doing it at church as volunteer service. So that's kind of nice, because it still is volunteer service, even if it's done at church. Now, competitive activities. If your kid is involved in, or son or daughter is involved in competitive basketball or sports, now if they're on a team through the public school, you can do that. Here in Colorado, you can join teams. In many of the states, homeschoolers don't have equal access for teams. And so for my son, he didn't have equal access to a team. We were on a homeschooling team that competed with local private schools. That was our competition, and they actually won a tournament in his 11th grade year, so it was kind of fun. So anyways, we kept track of all of that. I kept track of their win-loss record and all that kind of stuff and the tournaments they went to. So it was a fun thing to be able to put on. Any leadership training you do, leadership is wonderful, and this is something that employers, that's a soft skill that employers are really looking for. So please don't hide leadership in a class. That's right, I would find a way to talk about that experience and to write about what it was, and then to track those hours for that just as part of your leadership training. If you're shy on credits, you don't have 5 to 6 credits, then you can turn it into credits. But if you've got plenty of credits, then please keep it on your brag sheet. Employment experience, this could be either entrepreneurial, that your kid runs his own business, or your daughter has her own piano business. That's what my daughter did. She taught piano students, and then when she went off to college, they all looked at me and said, "So what are you going to do, Carol?" So that's how I started teaching piano. I got my daughter's students. And then she went to college, and she actually played for the voice instructors. So she got paid while she was in college, and that gave her all her running money. So you never know what some of those skills could turn into. Certification and training, babysitting, life-saving, first aid, all those kinds of certifications are a wonderful thing to. If you have enough hours to turn it into a half-credit class, great. But if you don't, then use it and put it on that brag sheet. Internships are pretty rare amongst homeschooling students, so if you have the opportunity for an internship, I would brag about it rather than put it as a course. So that's just something I look at. Apprenticeships also usually happen after high school. And then travel, especially missions trips. Sometimes your kids do some amazing stuff on missions trips that they would never be allowed to do here in the States. So to write about that and to be able to write about that experience, maybe for a college essay, those are great things to be able to put. Okay, now the best graduation ever is a transcript. And you say, well, you know, I don't really think we need it because my kid's not going to go here. Please, I've had to work with families that mom has died in a car accident, and we've had to put together a transcript for a 23-year-old who now wants to go to college. And we are more than happy to work with it, but that's a really hard thing to do. One of the best gifts you can give is to give a transcript to your kid, and I will help you, everything from holding your hands to just giving you what you need in order to make that happen. Here are 6 reasons. Obviously, most people know about the college and scholarship, but you're military. Kids that want to, students that want to join the military, that's something that you will need a transcript for, and they love homeschool transcripts and they love diplomas. That's not a problem for the military. That wasn't so before 2014, but it's now changed since then because due to HSLDA working with the military. Employers can ask for transcripts, and that's okay if they ask for transcripts. It's perfectly fine. Vocational schools and apprenticeship programs can also ask for transcripts. So there's a lot of places that you don't know what your 18-year-old's going to do in the next 5, 10 years. And so therefore, just doing it now when it's all in the memory is helpful. Okay, now, transcript providers. I'm going to show you how to be the transcript provider as the homeschool parent. But you could also be under an oversight or under a private school, and they could do that for you, or you could be under a correspondence or an accredited institution, and they could do it for you. So I just want to show you, on the left there, we have simplifying transcripts and record keeping on transcripts. That is an ebook that costs, I think, $2.99. It's really very expensive. Anyway, it will give you more information than I can give you in this hour here on transcripts. We also have another one called Develop a 4-Year Plan, which I should have showed you at the end of the last one, that is also a whopping $2.99. So I just wanted to show you that those are some options that you can take advantage of. And then we also have a transcript service called the HSLDA Fast Transcript Service. But you need to know what to put on the transcript. But if you don't want to format, if you hate computers that much, it will do it for you. So, and it will calculate all your GPAs for you. So that's another thing. Okay, now there are 4 parts to a transcript, and we're going to go over each part individually as if you're going to do this transcript for this one student that none of us knows, okay? So we're going to do the personal information first, and this is, we probably call this guy Robbie or Bob, but we want to give him his given name. You don't have to put the middle name on there, but if you want to, you can. And his address, phone number, all that kind of stuff. Please separate school information from student information. Is there a lot of crossover? You betcha. But it makes people far more comfortable dealing with your transcript when they know that they just go here for school and don't make mistakes. If you just put one, they get nervous that they're going to get the kid, they're going to get the student, and not the parent. So please give them 2. And now, you get to name your academy. You can call it Smith Homeschool, Smith Academy. You can name it for your street. You can name it for the character trait you're trying to instill in your kid. Just don't use something copyrighted like a Becker Academy, okay? Wisdom Incorporated. I don't know. That's right. So anyway, it's got the same address. It might have the same phone number. It might actually have the same email address, or may not. We want a graduation date and a contact, and that contact usually is the mom, but it can be the dad. It just depends how you'd like to do it. Now, if you have an email account that is hotcakes at hotmail.com, I think that's wonderful. But let's find another one to put on here. That's right. That's right. But it's got to be one that you're going to check. That's important. That's right. And it's more important, the homeschool one, than it is so much the teen one, because the teen one's going to change. Once they go to college or once they leave home, they're not going to have the same email. So the one that matters is the school one that's yours that you're going to keep for a while. Anyway, so that's the school information you want to do. And then I'll show you we'll show you what an incomplete transcript looks like when you are going through the college application process at the end of this. So just to give you an idea of what's coming up. Now, we want to talk about the academic record. And this is the courses, the credits, and the grades. Now, I want you to pick course names that everybody understands. If you do the Mystery and History Part 1, you know what it is, but nobody else knows what it is. And if you do, Omnibus Part 1, nobody knows what that is. So I want you to come up with names that someone who doesn't know your curriculum would understand. Places where people make mistakes is they think advanced biology is a really sexy name. It is, but it's really anatomy and physiology. So, in other words, I want you to come up with names that everybody understands what they are. You can either call it English 1, 2, 3, or 4, English 9, 10, 11, 12, or if you can corral all the authors into a corral, you can call it Western Lit, or British Lit, or American Lit, and composition 1, 2, 3, or 4, something like that. That's a good way to label your language arts class. Now, I want you to give prominence to the 5 academic subjects: math, science, English, history, foreign language, okay? Give those ones first. And sometimes you'll have more history or social studies classes. You can have more than one a year. It's fine. You're more than welcome to do that. So don't feel that you can only do one history or one social studies class a year. And then I want you to give the electives at the bottom. Now, if it's a speech class, which is an English elective, I want you to put it up there with English. Because if you put it at the bottom, it can get lost in the electives, and people won't know that you did more than 4 years of English. So I want you to keep the academic subjects together. You can have more than one English class, too. You might have some creative writing with that composition 1. You have composition 1, Western Lit and Comp 1, and then below it, creative writing for a semester or something. You're more than, or you want to do the one-year novel or something like that. You're more than welcome to do that. So now, what we have to do, I like to use the idea of performance. So if you're teaching something, it's piano performance, vocal performance, guitar performance, something 1, 2, 3, 4. Use numerals to show that they're getting better at something, because if you use music, 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 music 4 times, I know that they didn't just sit there and do music appreciation for 4 years, but that's what it looks like on that transcript. So if you did music appreciation for 4 years, do music appreciation 1, music appreciation 2. Give it a different name. The only one you don't have to worry about the name is PE. PE just has to happen. It doesn't have to get better at it. Sports gets better at it, but PE doesn't have to get better. You just have to make sure your heart pumps, some blood goes, and maybe some sweating happens. Okay, that's right. So evaluation credits, we already talked about this before. We said you can either, now, if you buy someone's curriculum and use that curriculum, you don't have to count hours at all. You just do 75 to 80% of what they tell you to do. That's all you have to do. That means you can eliminate a writing thing, you can eliminate a science experiment, you can eliminate something you think is really dumb, or we don't have, or that would blow up the house, or something like that. You can eliminate. That's right. But if you, so I just want you to realize, if you buy someone's put all together, you just get 75 to 80% of it done. And you can count it, whatever the publisher has told you. If he's told you it's a semester class, if he told it's a one-year class, you can automatically count that. So that's the easiest way if you buy curriculum and do what they tell you to do. Or you can log hours, you can come up with yourself. Now, in logging hours, remember, you can do a one-year class for 150 or more, or you could do a semester class for 75 or more. Same thing for a non-academic. 120 for a full year, or you can cut it in half, 60 or more for a half credit of a non-academic class. So it's your choice. Now, because you're all homeschoolers, and we're in this room together, and everyone else is here's homeschooling, right? Okay, good. Because you are, if you decide that one year, drawing did not go that well, okay? So we have like 15 hours of drawing because you had a teacher and then it stopped. And then the next year you decide to add to it something else that didn't go so well, but you got another 25 hours. If you want to take and add all those hours together so that you can get yourself to a minimum of 60, enter that class, the composite class, in the year you complete it, not the year you start it. Does that make sense? So if algebra takes more than a year to do, enter Algebra 1 in the year you finish algebra, not the year you start algebra, because you're just getting 1 credit for algebra. The most confusing transcript on the planet is the one that has a 0.25 of algebra here, a half of an algebra here, and another 0.25. That's a very confusing transcript to read. The whole point of a transcript is an overview of what was done in high school. So let's say you know your kids. Now, if you can finish algebra by the end of September, fine, put it all in the previous year. But if it's going to take up to another semester in that year, put it in the year you complete, because then you'll start the next one, and it might take you a year and a half to get that done, who knows? And that way, you'll have them in the class. But put them in the year you complete them. Don't drag them out over many years, even though that's how you did it, okay? It's just much clearer to understand as to when it was completed. Okay, so now I'm going to put credits to all of these classes. All the academics usually have 1 credit to them, and then I just happen to put PE and the other ones as a half credit because I'd like to show you the difference. Now we're going to go for grading guidelines. And yes, we know that they're very subjective. The same paper, it's submitted to the exact different teachers would get the different grades. But if you gave the standard to all the teachers of what you were expecting on that paper, they would have great consistency in the grades. That's just my case. Give them a standard. I gave them a standard as to what the organization of the paper should be. I gave them a standard what I wanted the punctuation grammar to be, the rules we knew that they knew, and what the style, how it should sound, the voice it should be in. Should it sound wordy with a lot of small words, or should it use more erudite vocabulary? I gave them the standards. And then I did a sneaky thing, because I don't know about you, but I keep grading the same English paper over and over and over with the same mistakes in it. Now, that doesn't happen in your homeschool, but it happened in mine, and it happened when I had homeschool students, too, in my house. And so I created the idea of giving them, once I graded a paper, because they see the grade, and then it goes in the trash. So before you throw that paper in the trash, take out a blank piece of paper and write on it, personal editing sheet, what you would do differently in the next one. Is there a grammar rules, a punctuation? What would you do differently? Just write at least 5 things. Then, when they turn in their next paper, guess what had to be on top of that paper? The personal editing sheet. And if they didn't go through and find those mistakes in this paper, there was more taken off for not doing that. I'm teaching them to go over their own work. And if there's something they don't understand, I need to teach it. My standards always were based on what I taught. And then I would teach something new, and I would add it to the standard, and that would become the A standard for this new paper. So I was always working on that gentle slope to make it so that each year they would get better at it. Okay, so rubrics are the words that education will use for standards. So one of our things, one of the newsletters that's called in the back there is called Streamline the Grading Process, links to a whole page of rubrics that we found online. So if you don't know how to grade an oral presentation, we have a rubric that you can look at. And you can either use that rubric or you can change it. We even have a site you can go to that create your own rubric. So the point being is that we can make you look really good. Yeah, okay. Now I'm going to put grades on these. Now, I gave A's, B's, A's, and I gave a C. Now, I know that some of you don't give C's, but this is an example I'm showing. You are all tutors, and tutors tend to give A's and B's because tutoring is the most efficient way to educate on the planet. We all know that. Okay, the reason is that C's show up when a kid isn't understanding what's being presented. Because in a public or private school, you can go a couple of weeks not understanding and then get, not do well on the test. But when you're sitting across from your kid, and there's that glazed look in their eyes, you know it didn't make it in. So the next day, you try another way. The point is it's a more efficient transfer mechanism and a more immediate feedback of what they're doing. So that's why you mostly see A's and B's is because of the tutoring method that you're using. Okay, so I want to put a pass grade on there, not because I encourage you to use it, but because I want to show you what happens to the GPA if you use a pass, okay? I would encourage you to grade everything. Why? Because some of those easier classes help with some of the harder classes that are in those academics. So now I've put in all my grades and I've put in all my credits, and now I'm going to do something about the academic summary. I'm going to calculate yearly, but the most important is the cumulative GPAs. So the first thing is I have to convert all those letters to grades, to numbers. So an A plus, and the way I'm going to use it is an A is 4, a B is 3, a C is 2, and a D is 1, and an F is 0. If you have a plus or a minus, you add 0.3 or subtract 0.3. So an A plus is 4.3, and A minus is 3.7. Same thing with a B, 3.3, B, 2.7. That's how it works. That's the easiest way to do it, and that's usually the common way it's done. Then you're going to multiply by the credit, because an A in a 1 credit class carries more weight than an A in a half credit class. And then you're going to sum them all together, and then you're going to divide by the total credits. So here is a picture that shows you why I have done this for the ones that I just said there. Lit comp was an A, and so that converts to 4. I multiply it by 1 credit. Woohoo, that's easy math, okay? But notice when I get down to health, it was a B for 3 credits, but it was just a half credit class. So it's 0.5. We have the book that I have, that ebook on simplifying record-keeping transcript, has all these examples in it. It has a lot in there. So I don't want to stop you from photographing, but I want you to see you can have something much easier. So anyway, I went ahead and multiplied all this. Now notice that PE is missing from that, because once something is a pass grade, it disappears from the GPA. If it's a fail grade, it shows up as a 0 and it's in the GPA. But if it's a pass grade, it just disappears. So what I do, I've multiplied them all out. I've added my quality points on the far right to get 19.5, and I know. And now the last step that I'm going to do for the yearly is I'm just going to divide that 19.5 by 6. Now, they had 6.5 credits, but half credit of that was a pass. So it's only 6 credits of actual non-pass work. That's what we're doing. And so that's 3.25. Had that pass grade been a fail, then they would have had 19.5 divided by 6.5. It would have been a 3.0 would have been the GPA. So that's the yearly. The yearly is the easiest to do. It's not the one that matters the most. The one that matters most is the cumulative, because the cumulative treats everything as if it happened all in the same year. So I'm going to now give you a whole bunch of credit points, quality points, on a transcript you've never seen, okay? But I just want to give you some examples of what you can do. So now I have a 9th grade quality points, and if I divide it by 6, that's how I got my 3.25. The same thing for 10th, 21 divided by 7, that's how I got my 3. 11th and 12th, that's how I got all those GPAs. Now let me show you the difference between that and the cumulative. In 9th grade, they are identical. It's the same quality points divided by 6. In 10th grade, the yearly is just a simple division. The cumulative adds quality points from 9th and 10th and divides by credits from 9th and 10th. So it's not the same. It's not the average between the two, because if there isn't the same credits each year, it's not an average, okay? Most kids do not have the same credits every year. So let me just show you. In the next year, in the 11th grade year, the yearly is just a simple division, but the cumulative has the 9th, the 10th, and the 11th. Oh, that should be a 19.5, not a 10.5. Sorry about that. Divided by the credits for 9th, 10th, and 11th. Okay, and then the last one in 12th grade. And that's the one that matters at the end of 12th grade is the 9th, the 10th, and 11th, and 12th divided by the credits for the 9th, the 10th, and 11th, and 12th. So it's a little bit more. Now, make your life easy. Once you calculate the quality points for 9th grade, write them somewhere on the transcript so that you never have to calculate them again. Then write them for 10th grade and write them for 11th. Because then you can really easily add them together and divide by, you can check your math very, very easily. And you don't want to do it if you always have to recalculate the quality points each time. Does that make sense? Once you have the quality points, you can easily check your math. So I just put it on the transcript. And then just remember, before you send the transcript, erase the quality points someplace. Okay, but that's the academic summaries, keeping track. And then we're going to put a certification. So now, in a completed transcript where someone has graduated, I've got all the yearly and I've got the cumulative. And the one that matters is at the bottom of the 12th grade year, that 3.25. That's the ones the colleges are looking at, okay? And then it's got a certification. Wording says, I certify and affirm. Starts down, we took out the I do hereby. We took that out. And you're just saying that this is the official transcript, and you're going to put your student's name, and then you're going to put the years where high school was, and that's what you're going to put it, and then you're going to give away, you're going to sign it, and you're going to date it, and you're going to date it like you do any medical or financial form. The day you sign it is the day you date it. Okay? It has nothing to do with the graduation date. Okay? Questions? Because I'm going to do exceptions in just a minute. Does that seem pretty straightforward? Yay! Okay, special cases. All right. Weighted GPAs, 8th grade courses, outside schools, college and college admissions process. How does that get a little bit different? I'll have examples for each one of these. Weighted GPAs walk in with honors classes and with AP classes. An honors class gets a half credit. You don't get more credit for taking an honors. The A counts for more. So in other words, an A instead of being 4 points is 4.5 for an honors class. A B is 3.5. So you get the same amount of credit, you just get an A that means more. For AP courses, you get a full credit added. So an A is 5 credits, a B is 4 credits, C is 3, a D is 2. And that's how college boards sold AP classes to the high school. Said, you take a much harder class, you won't get penalized in your GPA if you get a B in it. That's how they sold the idea. And so that's why APs are important, because you do get a grade bump. Now, if you only have one AP course and everything else is a 4.0A, it's only going to nudge up your average a little bit. You've got to have more to have to raise the average. So it depends on how many A's are 4.0As, how many A's are 4.5As, and how many A's are 5.0As. With that in mind, so that's what I weighted. Now, dual enrollment is the Wild West in the forum right now. It used to be that dual enrollment were never weighted because you already are getting your college credit, and it just meets the 150 hours, and so we're thrilled to have them. Dual enrollment do offer honors classes. So if the college is offering an honors English class, it will usually show up as 111 English 111H. It will actually show up in the title of that class. And if it's an honors class, they count it as an honors class. You should count it. Honors classes are in the eye of the grader, not of the beholder. So if you think your class is an honors class and you're grading it, you can give it the honors bump. But if you're taking an outside class from someone else and you think it's a really hard class, but they don't consider an honors class, you can't call it an honors class if you're accepting their grade. Does that make sense? You can always decide to blow off anyone's grade that you want to, but then don't call it an outside class if you change the grade. Does that make sense? Or you can take someone's class and add to it and say, I like this, but they didn't do enough of this, and so I want to add this. Then you can take their grade and your grade and put it together, but then call it your class. Does that make sense? That's right, because she who grades has all the power. That's right. All right, so talk about 8th grade course. Now, if it's an 8th grade course, I want you to designate it as 8th grade as part of the course title, because that will easily explain to someone as to why there is extra credit on that. And then I want to show you how to document and other classes. So now, let's say this kid is applying to go to college. So we say the expected graduation date, and we actually give a date. Now, that graduation date has nothing to do with the ceremony. Whenever you do the ceremony is just wonderful, but that's not official at all. When you have all the grades in and you can close the transcript, that's when graduation happens. So pick a date like May 15th or May 31st or June 15th or August 31st. Pick a date when you know school will be over and make that your graduation day. If you're within a year of graduating, you should have an actual day that your graduation is going to occur. If you're further out, like you're applying for dual enrollment and you need a transcript to send to them, if you're further out than a year, just put the month and the year that you expect graduation to happen. So I just put that in blue so you could see that. Please, no Social Security information on any of this. There is no way that, those numbers are going to be protected. These are not protected documents you're sending, so if you don't put that on any of these transcript information. Now, let's talk about what's happening. This is a transcript of someone applying to college in the 11th grade, at the end of, they're in the 12th grade year. I need to list everything that is happening in the 12th grade year, because they need to know I'm going to meet or exceed their minimum requirements. So if you don't tell them that he's taking English, if you apply and you only have 9th through 11th grade in there and they don't know that English is going to happen in 12th grade, he or she does not meet minimum requirements. So you need to show them what's happening. You're going to put the credit they're going to work toward, and you're going to put IP for in progress. And then if it's not going to start till spring, you can put spring. But the point is, you're going to tell them as much as you know that's going to happen in that 12th grade year, so that they can see that they are going to meet or exceed the minimum requirements that college is asking for. Now, also I have done is notice under 9th grade, there's Algebra 1, and I've added in parentheses 8th grade. That makes it very clear as to why those classes are up there. They fall in the same place with the other math class, geometry. Everyone understands that they did one in 8th grade and they're doing the other one in 9th grade. It's a very easy to understand form. And then I also noticed that under physical science and anatomy and Latin and English, I have some footnotes. You could use numbers, or you can use hashtags or asterisks, whatever you'd like to do. Don't use more than 2 asterisks, just because it gets really hard to differentiate between 2 and 3 asterisks when it gets real small. And the difference between 3 and 4 asterisks, it's really hard to be able to say. It's better to use different symbols or numbers. And then in the notes section, so if you pulled a kid from public school or private school, you could have a 1 footnote in front of all those classes from 9th grade, showing that all those classes were taken at blah, 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 public high school, city, state. On here I've had courses taken through HSLDA Online Academy, other ones taken through a co-op, and others taken through XYZ College. We all know XYZ College. No, we don't. But the point is that, now, the other thing I want you to notice is courses taken through XYZ College. Let's look under the 12th grade. Do you see English 111? That looks different than all the other English classes you've put on that transcript. Yes, we want it to look different. We want it to look exactly like a dual enrollment class. So if you list it the way it is in the college catalog, it will look very different. And then you don't have to worry that it has to be Spanish 2 or Spanish 3. You just list, SPA 110, conversational, introduction to conversational Spanish. Whatever they call it, that's what you call it on your transcript. And it makes it very clear as to where those classes are and that they are dual enrollment. And we want those to stand out because those are independent evidence of academic ability by your kid. So those are wonderful. Okay, any questions here so far? Yes?
If they took Algebra 1 in 8th grade, then why would you put it in 9th grade when Algebra 2 doesn't happen until 10th grade? Why wouldn't you just leave it Algebra 1 in 9th grade?
Well, because Algebra 1 was taken in 8th, but Geometry was taken in 9th.
Oh, I didn't see the geometry.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. That's right.
So you have to document when they take Algebra 1?
Well, 8th grade classes don't belong on the transcript, but you can pull certain classes up. Remember we showed you on that 4-year form that some classes, and math was one of those if it started earlier. And this is a way to show. Well, if you have to demonstrate 3 math classes and you don't go beyond Algebra 2, you better show Algebra 1. Now, if you're going to go further in math, doesn't matter. But if you're not going to go further in math, it does matter. Does that make sense?
It does. So like I see 3 comp in 11.
Yeah.
So would that really be necessary to do that?
It's your choice. I just want to show you an example to show you how to pull up 8th grade classes to put them on the high school transcript under the 9th grade year and explain why there's a lot more credits in 9th grade than you would normally expect to see, okay? That's important. Just want you to show. This is a very clear transcript. I have seen lots. I have the privilege of seeing lots of public school transcripts sent to me. They are not so clear. So making a clear transcript so is your friend. And that's what we want you to do. And we realize that there are many voices in the homeschooling community about how to do a transcript. And if your friend Betty did it a different way, I am not going to say don't do it Betty's way. But we do get to hear back from members all over that the transcripts are well received. And yes, go ahead.
If you decide that your own course is an honors course,
Right.
you list it as an honors course?
Right. The first word I'd write under English 9 is I would write honors English 9. That's what I would do. And if it was an honors course, I probably wouldn't call it English 9. I'd probably say honors, something, whatever, because, yeah, that's right. But that's the first thing I would put would be honors. And if it's an AP course, that's the very first thing I would put would be capital A, capital P. Yes?
So my daughter's currently in 8th grade.
Yeah.
And when you were talking about sciences, you said that biology and I don't recall the other subject.
Physical science.
Physical science could be recorded on 8th grade.
Mm-hmm.
But she's taking chemistry in 8th grade.
Then you,
Is that okay to put on there as well?
I would go ahead and put it on there. With chemistry, they may or may not take it, and that would be college dependent. But I wouldn't not enter it because she's done it. Does that make sense?
So my question,
Yeah.
because there's that fine line,
Right.
Would it be better for her to take it again, or is it? I'm not sure.
Well, and that's a very good question. It is very common in the public schools to see a regular biology class in 9th, and then an AP or a dual enrollment biology class in 11th or 12th. And it's not the same class, even though they're both called biology. So that's another thing that you could do as well, is that you could do it in a harder format. And they would be considered two different classes. And once you see that dual enrollment textbook, you'll know that they're different classes. That's right. So that's what, if she's advanced like that, I would love for her to see AP chemistry or a dual enrollment chemistry. I think that would better serve her than retaking.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there a problem with the fact that there seems to be less classes being taken in 11th and 12th? Because I know you said it looked like.
Oh, you can't see in 11th, 12th the rest. I have like 6 lines missing. That's right. This is just a sample to show you, but yeah, it would be a problem if that was the case. It would be a big problem. Yes.
I'm just wondering if you have a reason why high school level courses that fall under non-math and science that are taken in the 8th grade can't be brought over.
Oh, you can. It's just colleges will generally ignore them. So when you're putting together your minimum requirements, if you're depending on an 8th grade English class to meet one of those, the college may say, no, it doesn't. But you'll say, but it's on my transcript, it was high school level. And you can't win that conversation with the college. The college always wins. So I do it not because you couldn't, but because it reminds me not to depend on it. So you can put on it what you'd like. I just don't want you to depend on something that the college might later say we won't take. That's why I do it, for that reason alone. Great point. Anything else?
Do we have to, is it a little immoral to not label it as 8th grade but show it in 9th grade?
No, it's not, but you start getting too many credits in 9th grade. So let me explain the idea of credits. What's too many credits, and when do people stop believing you that you don't know what a credit is? Okay, that's right. Because if from morning till night, tell me I have till noon, right? Do I? Yeah, okay. So I think I have till noon, good. If from morning to night everything they do is credit, you're going to have 12 credits on that year. You're just going to, because that's how many hours you have available to you. So this is the way the colleges look at it. If you have an 8-hour-a-day job, if you're busy from 7 to 8 and you get your hour lunch or something like that, you come home, you don't want to do a whole bunch of extracurricular. You're tired. So an 8-hour-a-day job is tiring to adults. So when you're showing 8 or more credits on a transcript in a year, you better have a reason to explain it by a couple of 8th grade classes. Or they start thinking you don't know what a credit is. Now, I know you do know what a credit is. And I know your kids work really, really hard, but we want to convince someone else. So I would say if you have more than 7.5 credits, pull some of that off and put it on your extracurricular as a brag sheet. And just keep a sample on that transcript to impress the college, okay? Did your kid do it? Of course they did. Now, extracurricular, we're going to see in the next hour that I get to talk with you, has some very good uses. So it's not wasted. It is definitely going to be of your value to have extracurricular. I think sometimes people undervalue extracurricular and think, no, it's more important to have it as a class. I just want you to realize that if there's 8 or more credits, they'll stop believing that you're doing extracurricular. That's just the way they're looking at it. And so since they're evaluating the transcript, part of being the record keeper of your home is putting on the most impressive on the transcript and saving to the extracurricular what you can put there. That's how I'd like you to consider it. Anything else you want to add? Okay, great question. Has that brought up any other questions? Extracurricular is really very, very useful. So anyway, with that in mind, now I've done that one. Now, life happens, you get shot in the foot, you trip over, parents get sick, you come down with cancer, children get Lyme's, life happens. So what we want to do is a subject transcript doesn't mean that this is not life has happened, but a subject transcript is a way to show what happened in high school without showing when it happened in high school. So graduation is going to be quicker, you're going to graduate in 3 years. So you're going to work really, really hard, like doing more than 8 credits a year, okay? Or if it's going to take longer because you need to take time off for therapy or other things, then a subject transcript is a good thing to go to. So, and also, you know, families, a parent moves in with you, and now all of a sudden your homeschool gets a little undone. That happens in life. And so now I have seen public schools that are subject transcripts. So there's nothing about subject transcripts that says there's a problem with your school, okay? But don't use subject transcripts to hide too many credits, because the number of credits on that transcript does matter. If you start seeing 32 credits on that, people start, they just get suspicious. And I don't want them to be, I don't want your transcript to be put in a place that says, I don't know that we believe this. I want it to be right in there that says, wow, look at this. That's where I want it to be. So now, notice that I have things listed by category: English, math, science, history, social studies, foreign language electives. And you can put more. You could put fine arts if you wanted to make. You do. It's more listed. It's assumed that the class at the top of the subject was taken first and the one at the bottom was taken last. And so you'll notice that if this kid was applying to college, English 4 is IP. The only way you could find out what was happening this year is looking at all the grades that said IP on them, so for in progress. Now, this is the one time when I would give PE a number to it, PE 9, 10, 11, because otherwise you have PE, PE, PE. It gets really hard to understand. But anyway, that is another way that you could do a transcript, is through that subject. And let me show you what the bottom. Now, if you're an HSLDA member, we have these forms we would love to email to you. So you can use our blank forms. Oh. At the very bottom, I'll have to add that to it. At the very bottom, the wording says that this is, we self-certify that this is the academic record of so-and-so through graduation in, and it just gives a year. You notice it doesn't give a bracket of 4 years the way the 4-year form did, and so therefore it just shows when graduation happened. It doesn't show the actual years. So early graduation or a delayed graduation, that's a really good choice, okay? Just don't use this form to hide too many credits on from 8th grade, because by the number of credits, they'll know that, you know, they'll know what you're doing, because they'll see all the IPs, and if you only have 6 credits IP, then they'll say to Ryan, if senior high is 6 credits or 6.5, and that's probably what you took all the other years, that means I'm looking at 8th grade classes. Does that make sense? That's why I want you to realize it. You can turn out some really fine transcripts. It really is. And I just want somebody else to look at your transcript. Do it, a friend. I'm happy to do it, but have someone else, just because the first transcript I turned in, I had lots of people look at, and it went great. The second transcript, I know what I'm doing. That's the one I made the mistakes on, okay? If someone had just looked at that transcript, I would have said, duh, that should not have been labeled that way. So that's why. And then here's the resources. We have Develop a High School Plan. It's an ebook, Simplify Record Keeping and Transcripts. They are available on Amazon as well as from our HSLDA website. And then we also have the fast transcript service. But I just want you to realize you can actually turn out a really fine product. Are there any other questions that I can answer here? Yes?
You said that the 4 steps for president transcript were in a book. Which book was that?
Simplifying Record Keeping and Transcripts. Simplifying record keeping and transcripts. Everything that, in more depth of what we covered in this talk that I could give you in 55 minutes, is covered in record keeping and transcripts. And everything we did in the first talk that I did in I did an hour is covered in develop a high school plan, okay? And so just before we end, I'd just like to encourage you to become an HSLDA member. If you could co-op with us in order to make homeschooling, keep it legal. We find today that flare-ups happen in odd places at odd times. You obviously had something here with immunizations that flared up in 2017. We just in Virginia had a flare-up in my own county. Nothing happens in my county, but in my own county had a flare-up where the school board wanted to eliminate the right to homeschool by religious exemption. And it's like, that's not even under the school board's purview. Why would they care about it? But that was a big flurry of feathers that showed up just before Christmas. And so that was as busy as we've ever been in Loudoun County in December, and I can ever remember. So they tend to flare up like that. And we also know that oftentimes the people that get picked on are the people that they go after are like a special needs kids that's being ill-served by the school. Mom pulls it out, the kid's out, and then all of a sudden they go after her because they say, you're truant. It's just not fair to pick on that woman who's doing the right thing for her kid. And we find that because of judicial activism, any one of these cases can be where your homeschool law gets challenged and changed. Judicial activism is to change the statutory law from the bench rather than through the legislature. And so that's why on certain cases, even if they're not members, we have a freedom fund by which people contribute to so that we can be active on those cases because we see that could affect your homeschool law. You have a wonderful homeschool law here in Colorado, and we would just love it to stay that way. That's our goal, is that there would be no significant challenge or changes to your homeschool law in the next 5 years. We want that for all. So anyway, and then if you do join today, we have a $10 off or $15 off that you can get for joining today, but you can join any day online. But I have some forms up here if you'd like to. Now it is time for lunch. I want to thank you so much for listening to the boring part of record keeping. Hello.